I think it's fair to say, sir, that people are not only fascinated with the question of where you might be headed in the next 6 years, but also where you're coming from and where you stand as this campaign begins. That question was on many people's minds with your recent one-on-one with Bongbong Marcos. In particular, your statement that, there were, you said, I mean, among other things, nobody was arrested just because of their beliefs.
Wait a minute. We never arrested people. I never said that. I never said that. What I said was, we never killed people needlessly or without any reason, with impunity. I never said that we did not arrest. I never said that there were no human rights violations.
But sir,
Where do you, I mean, just to be clear, categorically, where do you stand now? Were there human rights violations during martial law?
There were. You cannot control everybody in the military. Even now, you cannot control them. There are always aberrant people who do not follow rules.
Okay, but how do you square that with what you just said? That nobody was, you said nobody was...
We did not kill people with impunity, meaning killing them at random or just because we like to kill them. If we did that, how can you explain why you have Jose Maria Sison living today, Randall Echanis, Chamson, and all the leaders of the communist movement? We controlled all of them. We captured all of them. But we preserved their life. You asked Randall Echanis.
Yes, sir.
He is now a member of the hierarchy of the Communist Party of the Philippines. I made a house for him and his wife at the back of my office in the Camp Aguinaldo.
Sir, I watched the interview several times, and you said, name me one person who
that we killed with impunity.
Not only that, sir. Name me one person who was jailed for his political or religious beliefs. And you also said that
I do not remember.
Name me one who was criticized, who was jailed for being critical or for criticizing Ferdinand Marcos.
Did I say that?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Where?
It was in the video, sir. If you want, we can have it played back later. But it is in the video, and it's all over social media.
Well, that is my perception, because for those people that we arrested, Ramon Mitra, Ninoy Aquino, Jose W. Jokno, even Jovi Salonga, who was very close to me, and the rest of them, there was a reason for that.
Sir, ano yung reason?
In the case of Ninoy, you read this trial.
But they were all political dissidents. They were all critics
of course, they
of
were
Ferdinand
all
Marcos.
politicians. But to say that there was no basis for their arrest, we were not arresting people just for the heck of depriving them of their liberties. There was a basis.
They were arrested for being political dissidents.
No.
They were arrested for going against the government.
There were people arrested because they were attempting to kill Marcos 3 times. There were the most current in those days was the Light a Fire movement.
Light a Fire, yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But there are also people who were jailed who do not seem to be involved in any plot to us. For example, Amando Doronila. Amando Doronila, the journalist, also Teodoro Locsin Sr. and
our publisher, Max Sullivan.
Max Sullivan.
Many journalists.
I must tell you,
Many people
in the initial stages, we have to emasculate all the leaders in order to control the situation. I must admit that. And then afterwards, when we have quieted the society, we started releasing them. How long did they stay in? Did Doronila stay in?
But when you say that of course we had to emasculate the leaders, isn't that in a way just another way of saying we had to silence the opposition, or we had to silence the
when you deal with the problem of society, as the magnitude of which was as big and as delicate with what we encountered at the onset of martial law, you have to, you do not take any breaks. You have to stop the movement altogether.
Yes, sir. But you're identifying
But
journalists as
we never
leaders of the
intend,
opposition.
as far as I'm concerned, and I had no intention of jailing people that who were my friends. But by necessity, in order to quiet the society and prevent bloodshed, that was our assumption. You have to stop it.
Yeah, but going by Ed's point, you started off by saying that clearly there were people who were out to, for example, assassinate the president. Clearly there were people out to foment rebellion and so on. Now we're here, further down the slope, talking about, wait, we need to emasculate the leaders. Wait, we need to quiet. And to Ed's point, that leads to jailing not just politicians, not just communists, as you say, but it includes media, it includes journalists, it includes editors.
Well, I'm sorry for that, no? If I have to apologize. But that was our perception. It was not an intention to harm anybody, but to protect society, because we did not want anything. We are unleashing a system of government control over the society that needs to be firmly established so that you avoid violence.
And thank you for that, sir. I mean, but in terms of acknowledging that point, I mean, that's fine. Nobody here is out to change anybody's mindset or perception. But you do understand also that this is why it's important for a lot of people, at least a categorical acknowledgement that martial law was a dark period that included human rights violations, that included murder, that included torture, that included warrantless arrest of people, the disappearances of tens of thousands of people.
I accept that we did those things, but the purpose is to quiet the society immediately. For instance, I'll tell you, maybe you do not know this. Mrs. Jokno came to me, I think a few months after martial law, complaining about the absence of her husband in Fort Bonifacio. I did not know that they were transferred. I was the custodian. I hope Mrs. Jokno is still alive. She was in my room. I called up General Ramos. Where is Senator Jokno? He did not want to answer. And then later on, he said, sir, that is a classified matter. I am asking you, I said, to tell me where they are. They were sent to Laur. Who sent them there? He did not want to answer. I told him, Mrs. Jokno was in front of me. Return them to Bonifacio. That was my first break.
Yes, but
with my bosses.
So you're saying all these things that you did during martial law, you were the guy who signed the arrest, search, and seizure orders. You're saying all these things that happened were necessary. You haven't changed your mind about this.
Well, when
you shut down newspapers and arrested journalists.
When you run a wide operation like that, I'm only one. I have to depend on people. I have to sign warrants of arrest, and based on a battle of order that was prepared by government. Their names are listed there. I hope we can get a copy of that battle order.
But you understand, sir, that when people want to discuss this and want to have this conversation with you, and they raise it in the context of a conversation with Bongbong Marcos that took place just a few weeks ago, it's important for people to understand, then why did you say that to Bongbong Marcos? Why did it seem so dismissive when you were talking to Bongbong Marcos and basically telling the son of the dictator that, you know what, a lot of the things are exaggerated, a lot of the things didn't really happen?
Well, there was, to me, this is my story. Diba? I have my own story. Yes. You have your story.
Yes.
Even the dull or the ignorant, they have their own story. And if you do not agree with my story, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I regret it.
Yes.
If you were heard.
Yes, but taking it to an objective.
Looking at it from my point of view at the time, and in that period, our purpose is really to prevent an unnecessary bloodshed in the country.
Yeah. And I think point of view is a good term. I guess that's what we're saying. Voters want to know what are the points of view of our prospective legislators. And so, but taking it forward, for example, as senator, this is part of your story.
Yeah.
As Senate President, you signed RA 10368, which acknowledged the dark period, which acknowledged the human rights, which created the human rights claimants
That's true.
board.
I don't deny
But
that. I signed it.
Which is,
Because if there were
yes, and so
people
people want to
really-
know, where are you coming from now? Are you coming from the perspective that all of that was necessary, or are you coming from the perspective that a lot of that was regrettable and should not have happened?
Well, as I said, if there were people who were hurt, I'm sorry that that happened because I cannot control all the people. I recognize that there were people who were aberrant and who cannot be, who abused their power. And I tried to minimize it as much as I could as a single person.
Yeah.
Even this Calante massacre that they are throwing at me. I had to charge Armin Gustilo for
Yes,
it.
if I may, sir, I mean, I appreciate, all of these stories and anecdotes and examples that you're saying, but you make it sound as if, look, I was just one person. I tried to deal with the case of Jokno one-on-one. If friends come to me, that I try to intervene. But from the perspective of the common Filipino, the simple Filipino, who is not your friend, who are not lawyers, who do not have access to you, that's a totally different story. And the other thing I wanted to qualify is, as I said, you make it sound like I'm just one person, but officially, you were the implementer of martial law.
But-
when friends come to you, shouldn't that be more than a personal thing that you can intervene on? Was that not an opportunity for you to say, wait, these are red flags. If this is happening to my friends, I wonder what is happening to the millions of Filipinos out there.
I did that. I can swear to God that I did that. I tried to prevent anybody from being killed or hurt.
So you're acknowledging that there were human rights violations and there were killings
There's
during
no
martial law.
question that there were, but the magnitude is a debatable issue. That is what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
If there were, they're entitled to whatever justice they deserve.
And
Now-
some of the violations you're saying were necessary as part of operations to stop this movement to assassinate the president at that time?
You have to study each case, whether it is necessary or not. And that is why I said 32 years has passed so that we can close all of this. How come that those people who claim, and I do not say that there were none that would claim, no one has come out and produced the evidence of what happened to them.
Sir, but
There are
many who have produced
11,000
evidence.
people are already officially acknowledged to have been human rights victims.
They've been given checks already.
I have seen the affidavits scribbled in handwriting by people on pad paper, acknowledged by the courts. They are entitled to reparations, but under a law that you signed. Then
Well,
you're asking-
I'm not aware of that number. I must confess that the depth of my learning has not gone that far. But if there were that much, which I do not know, and subject to evidence, I'm sorry if I've hurt any one of them.
As well, sir, I think a point of concern for many people after that tete-a-tete with Bongbong Marcos was that you said specifically in that discussion with Bongbong Marcos that no one was arrested.
No, I did not say that.
Yes, sir, but you did.
I
no one
said
for political
no
or
one
religious
was
reasons.
killed. I said that, the first time I said that was with Winnie Munsod. I could not possibly
Sir,
say,
it was there
change
in the first interview released by the Bongbong Marcos camp. You said specifically, name me one person who was jailed for his political or religious beliefs, or name me one person who was
Religious
jailed
belief, we
for
did not,
yes, sir,
Political.
political
Political.
or religious beliefs, and name me one person who was jailed for criticizing martial law. Those three.
Well, if
three
I
items,
said
yes,
that,
sir.
I must have been in my unlucid
Unlucid
interval.
moment. Whose idea was the interview with Bongbong Marcos?
I was invited by Bongbong to interact with him to document the achievement of the father. That was one. And these questions came up, and I was answering. And that's what happened.